And when I say to friends like Bosnia, they go, really? And I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. You don't understand. Why are you here? We get that question a lot. And we're like, well, why wouldn't we be here? Look at it. It's stunning. We were here for 3 days. And Leanne said, I want to live here.
No, I didn't. You said that. He turned to me and said, can I tell you a secret? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I don't want to go to Italy. And I was like, me neither. Everyone's in a mess. Everyone's got corrupt politicians. Everyone hates the politics of their country. Rather than run away from that, accept that it's not going to be different anywhere else.
If someone from Germany comes and lives here, then a lot of younger people are saying, but we want to go that way. So you've done the opposite of what we want to go.
Yeah, maybe go for 6 months, 12 months, do your research, see what's exciting, come back and build it in Bosnia, because the next 5 years, I'm really excited for Bosnia.
A good man is a good man. And we were like, wow, and that gave us like goosebumps. And we were like, wow.
Bosnia is such a brilliant place to do it, because it's already been done in the UK, it's already been done in Germany, it's already been done in Spain and Italy. And
Zašto se par iz Mančestera nakon putovanja kroz 48 zemalja odlučio trajno nastaniti u Blagaju i kakvo je njihovo iskustvo sa Bosnom i Hercegovinom do sada, otkrivaju nam naši domaćini Leanne i Elliott.
Ukoliko želite podržati naš rad, besplatno se pretplatite na naš kanal.
Life in the UK was great. We loved our life there, and I think sometimes people wonder if we were running away from something, but we really enjoyed our life there. But we wanted to travel, we wanted to experience living in Europe. So in 2013 we left the UK and we went to Spain, and we lived there for 4 years, very happily. And then Brexit happened, and we knew that would change everything in terms of where we'd be able to live, where we'd be able to travel, how easy that would be. So we had an idea to see if we could visit every European country before Brexit, before it went through. And we almost did it. We got stuck in February 2020 in Lithuania, and we just had a few more to go. So what turned into, was meant to be just 6 months, turned into 3-4 years, and along that way we found the Balkans, and we spent a good bit of time in Slovenia, Croatia, and in Bosnia, and we just fell in love with the region. It was just, I don't know, I think there's some places that just kind of give you the feels, give you that butterflies, and the Balkans was that place for us.
Yeah, we first came here about 2018, I think. So we drove from Greece up through Kotor, stayed in Kotor, then we came here from Kotor, and we were here for 1 month. Very strangely, in a house just maybe about 1 kilometre from here, Airbnb house, and we just found it was just the most amazing place. The people were so amazing. It was different. It feels different to some other Balkan countries. Like we're in Maribor, it feels almost German or Austrian, whereas here it felt very traditional. And I think the time when we thought we'd found our people was when the owner of the house on the last day came out and he sat down with us and he said, I just want you to know that no matter what's happened in the past in our history, a good man is a good man. And we were like, wow, and that gave us like goosebumps. And we were like, wow. And it just felt like the values and the way that particularly well, our experiences in Herzegovina, but the way that the local people here are so welcoming to us and so like, why are you here? We get that question a lot, and we're like, well, why wouldn't we be here? Look at it, it's stunning.
For how long have you traveled around Europe?
So that was 2017, and then we stopped just last year, so 6 years we were travelling around Europe. It felt like it was all our favourite bits from the Balkans put together. So the scenery in Herzegovina is beautiful, and named out the coasts are very much like the coast of Croatia. And then you go to Sarajevo, and it's much more urban, much more city, which reminded us of kind of going up to Belgrade. And then you have the beautiful lakes and mountains that remind us of Montenegro. And it was almost like all of our favourite bits. And then the people were just so lovely. Everywhere we've been in Bosnia, we've had similar experiences. And I think when you're living abroad, finding your community is one of the most difficult things. So to have a head start with people who are welcoming is really important.
Yeah, totally. And then the family who rent to us here, like, they'll help us with anything. So we'll go, we want to get this, and they'll go, yeah, that's fine, go here. They brought us a lovely Christmas present with a doormat with our names on it, and they're just so welcoming and so lovely. And it's not something which you expect as a foreigner, because there's two things that surprise you really. First of all is that as a foreigner, we are learning Bosnian, but it's a difficult language for us to learn, for Brits to learn. But people are like, okay, don't worry, we'll speak your language in my country. That's no problem at all. And it was just, I can't imagine in the UK someone from the Balkans coming to the UK and saying, do you mind if we speak Bosnian? And the person from the UK going, absolutely no problem, yes, let's speak your language in my country. It's just so welcoming.
What was your perception of Bosnia before you came? What was it was it like it's like war here, or?
Well, that's our experience, isn't it? As foreigners looking in, like I remember distinctly our journalist, a guy called Jeremy Bowen, who was on the ITV and seeing on television in the bridge on Mostar back in 91, 2, 3, I can't remember what year it was. I was born in 77, so I would have been 15, 16. And I remember looking at that, and that was my frame of reference. And when I say to friends like Bosnia, they go, really? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. It's nothing like what you remember. It is just truly stunning. What do you think?
Yeah, same. I remember there's lots of different charity drives in the UK we did these shoe boxes for the children of Bosnia that we'd put toothbrushes in and things that people need. Really?
Yes.
So it could have come from you.
Maybe. So it was so similar. That's all I'd kind of known about Bosnia. And then our first stop in the Balkans was actually Slovenia, and at that point we started to educate ourselves a bit more about the conflict and kind of what happened, and I think we kind of didn't really at that point didn't know what to expect. And we were just blown away. And what's so funny is that even now people in the UK are surprised we're in Bosnia, but they weren't surprised when we were in Croatia.
Yes.
And it's like, well, it was all the same conflict. And I think what we love most about it is it's almost like a secret. And we don't want it to be a complete secret because we want people to come to Bosnia and experience it. But we do feel a little bit special that we got to find it maybe a bit earlier. So when we do bring friends over, we had a friend come over in October, and she's already planned her next trip next year.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, as a country, we want Bosnia to join the EU, of course, but also personally, we don't, because we want to keep all the other foreigners out and keep it for ourselves. It's the best kept secret, I think, in Southern Europe.
Yeah. You have family in Manchester. How dare you?
My mum was funny. She's Catholic, she's quite religious, and I said where we were, and she said, is that near Medjugorje? I said, yeah. She went, okay. I think similarly, they don't really know what to expect, but my mum and dad lived in Saudi Arabia in the 70s and 80s. They were quite intrepid then, so my dad thinks it's great, and they've come to visit us at various places we've lived over the years. So yeah, I think at this point, they're not really that surprised. They're like, okay, that's just where you are now.
I think it would have been different had we come from Manchester and said, right, we're going Manchester to Mostar. They would have been like, what the hell? Why have you made that decision? But because they would quite often like text us or email us and go, where are you? And we're like, well, we were in Poland yesterday, but now we're in Prague. And they'd be like, and so they never knew where we were. So it was less of a surprise, I think. My dad still likes telling people, like, you'll never guess where Leanne and Al are. They're in Mostar, and he still likes that, and I think that's kind of cool.
You plan to stay here and not to live somewhere else, so how you came to that decision?
Well, the first part of that, when we first came here 5, 6, 7 years ago, we were like, we want to be here, we want to live here. And then we were in Imotski in Croatia, and we were sitting there in summer, and we were like, right, okay, we're going back to Mostar. We're going to go and buy a house, and we're going to live there. And this would be, what, 2020? Mm-hmm. And then the second wave of the pandemic happened, and we were like, oh, I don't know what the healthcare's like in Bosnia, particularly for us foreigners. We didn't understand that. We understood Slovenia because we'd spent a bit of time in Maribor, so we went back to Maribor, and then it got locked down. We were stuck there for like 6 months, 7 months, and then it kind of went out of our heads. But then we came back to Bosnia almost by accident. We were in Italy last summer for 3 months. And in every country we've stayed, because obviously after Brexit, thank you very much, the best gift ever, that's sarcasm. Then after Brexit, we can only, as Brits, we're Schengen, we're non-Schengen. So we spent 3 months in Italy, and we were like, right, we'll apply for a visa to stay here. And then we found out we can't apply for the visa unless we leave. So literally we had 3 days left of our Schengen time, like, where can we go? well, we know exactly where we can go. We can go to Bosnia, non-Schengen, non-EU. So we came here originally back in September
last year,
for 3 months, and to apply for our visa or our residency back in Italy. And then we're here for 3 days. We stayed in Blagaju, didn't we, by the river? We were here for 3 days, and Leanne said, "I want to live here."
No, I didn't. You said that. we stayed in down by the river for a few days, and then we actually went up to the house in Mostar.
Oh yes.
In the city centre, and we were sat outside. It had like a little garden, and Al turned to me and said, "Can I tell you a secret?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I don't want to go to Italy." And I was like, "Me neither." I think to frame that at the start of that, since Brexit, we're hugely limited in terms of where we can apply for temporary residency. Very, very limited. So in Croatia, for example, we could only do what's called a digital nomad visa, and we could get 12 months, and then we have to leave for 3 months and apply again. So there's no continuous route to residency. And after 6 years of travelling, we were starting to feel like it'd be nice to have a base. It'd be nice to have somewhere to call home. So we were massively limited, and Italy it's one of the few places that offers good options for us as Brits. And then it was when we came to Bosnia that we thought, actually, this is fabulous. And then we tried to figure out if we could stay, and initially we didn't think that we could.
No. No, we had to. We can talk about that, but we've had to do all kinds of crazy things so we can actually stay here.
Yes, you can talk about that. So, what's the first step you did?
Well, we went to the Foreigners Office, didn't we? And we said, "How do we stay?" And they said, "Well, you get a working visa." We said, "How do you get a working visa?" "Well, you get a job." And we're like, "We've got a job. We work for ourselves." It's like, "No, you need to get a job in Bosnia." And then they explained that, but you also have to get a job in Bosnia with a company doing a job that a Bosnian cannot do. And I'm like, well, we're
not that skilled.
We're not that skilled. So we're like, what do we do?
Yeah, so we thought that was it. So then we started looking back into Italy again, and I think we had 4 weeks where we had to find new accommodation for. So we went to see another apartment in Mostar, and we were chatting to the guy who owned it, showing us around, and we were saying about how much we loved it, how we wish we could stay, but we've already asked and there's no option for us. And he said, yes, there are. So I've got friends who are British who have settled here. He's like, I'll put you in touch with my lawyer. And then it turned out that it's not easy, but there are routes that we can buy property, and that allows us to stay here, or we could open a business, employ ourselves, and that gives us a working visa to go down that route. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily straightforward, but there are options for Brits here.
And that's what we did. We started a business, and that's it. But we still have the paperwork was tough. I think it's anywhere in Europe the paperwork.
Yeah,
is tough.
that's no different everywhere's. Yeah,
really?
Everywhere's tough.
We think this is the worst country. No.
Spain,
really
bad.
Interesting. Was there any bizarre situation that you encountered here trying to do these papers?
It was quite funny when we had to go to the notary and sign everything, because the company's in my name, and every professional we worked with found that quite surprising that it was in my name and not in Al's name. So there was a lot of papers being pushed towards Al, and then Al having to push them back towards me. So that was quite funny.
Yeah, because I have a property company in the UK, and so I wanted to keep that separate. And so it felt in the UK it's like totally normal. You separate it out. But yeah, that was when we had quite a few interviews, and people have actually said, "I'm sorry, what?" She's the boss and I work for her, and it's like that's kind of quite funny. There's the frustration stuff, like the time when they want my degree certificate to get a job permit. And I'm like, yeah, but my degree was 1995. You know, that's a long time ago. I don't have the certificate, and luckily my mother was able to find it and scan it and send it over. But that was something which really surprised us. There was lots, as you say.
The having our criminal record checks had to be certified. So here everything's notarized, isn't it? You have a stamp from the government, and it's a very common thing. In the UK, everything's digitized, everything's online. So we'd get our criminal record check. The UK government would give us a website link and a special code that we can give to an employer or a government agency. They log on to the UK government system and verify that that is a true copy of the paper one that we're showing them. And the Mostar office was like, no, we need it stamped. I was like, but they don't really do that. And he was like, we need it stamped. So we ended up having to take it back, and we could go to a notary and basically say this is a true copy of of the original. But I think that's the only slight difference, is that the UK is very digitised and here is very manual. So often we have to go and manual things in the UK that is difficult and takes time. But,
Yeah.
but that's part of the deal, right?
And the prices are very different. In the UK, it'll be about 220 like km in the equivalent to have something notarized, one document notarized, whereas over here it would be like, you look at it and go, so what, that's 18 market for this? And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okay, there's 18 markets. So it's quite surprising that some of the things are quite cheap, but I suppose it makes sense because you have to notarize a lot.
Yeah. And then you're very time pressured because it has to be within 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, we do not want to pay another €400 to get them notarized again. So, but yeah, so. But it's not our first time doing this. And as Al said, Spain was equally as probably more tricky.
This is obviously nothing to do with Bosnia, but in Spain we used to have Rottweiler dogs, and they were just so gentle and lovely dogs. But you have to have a license for it, a dangerous dog license in Spain. It took us so long to get the dangerous dog license, took us a year, that the dog had died by the time we got the license.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's funny. It's funny. It was like, oh well, thank you very much.
Expired.
Exactly.
Oh my God. So you met a dog on the journey. Where?
In Spain. So we've met 2 dogs on our journey now. So the first in Spain, he was 5 weeks old. He was found in the trash. So we adopted him at 5 weeks, and he's been with us ever since. He's the most well-travelled rescue dog in the world, I think. He's been to 9 countries.
Yeah.
And then a couple of months ago, we found a lovely dog sitter in Mostar to look after Peanut when we went back to the UK. And when we went back, there was this little ginger dog called Bobby who jumped on my knee, and he was looking for a home. So now he's part of the family as well. So we've got a dog with a Croatian passport and a dog with a Spanish passport, and both of them now have more rights than we do in Europe.
What do you do for a living now?
We have a kind of there's sort of three main things we do. There's the property company, as I said, that I'm part of with my business partner. So there's a little bit of that work to be done. But the main bit is the podcast, which we started about 2.5 years ago, maybe. Yeah. With the idea of just we already had a podcast for travel. We had the equipment. We enjoyed podcasting, but there was only maybe sort of like 2,000 a month kind of downloads. So we started this other podcast thinking, oh, well, that might be quite good fun. And then within sort of 6-8 weeks, a big company in America called HubSpot, that we applied to them. I just applied thinking nothing would happen. And then we got accepted. And so we got accepted to this program where they sponsored us and they pay us money. And since then, we've grown to we're number 2, I think, in the UK at the moment. And we've grown every month we grow a bit more, and they obviously give us more money for the sponsorship. And so that's kind of like our main income. It was supposed to be a side project with consultancy, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I'm a business psychologist, so I help business owners recruit people, manage people, make sure they're safe and well. So that's what the podcast is about. It's gone a bit more broad than that now, but so yeah, it was meant to be a way of marketing the consultancy, which I still do bits and pieces of now and again, but most of it now is content creation.
Most of it, yeah.
Do your followers know that you are outside of England?
We mention it on the show lots of times, yeah, because we're very bullish on remote work, and there's a big argument in the UK now about organisations trying to force people back into the office, which we think is silly because we know people can be productive working remotely. So we often reference it when we talk about that. But yeah, people who follow us on socials know as well, because the Sideways Life, which was our travel podcast, it still does okay, and probably the community there is probably more engaged than on our business podcast. So yeah, it's not hard for people to figure it out. And then often if people do get in touch, they'll either say exactly where is Bosnia, and then they'll say something like, do you have any recommendations for restaurants? And then we end up giving lots of travel tips, don't we, from people. So.
What was your life like here until now?
For the last 12 months, it's just been incredible. We are fortunate that we are in Herzegovina, so we get like 310 days of sun or something, which is
December.
Which is good. Yes, this is December and it's incredible. But in terms of the summers are just like the 1st of June, it's like someone turns a switch and it goes, right, it's summer. And then the 1st of October, someone turns it off again. And in the UK, summer is usually one Tuesday in July when it doesn't rain, and that's summer. So it's beautiful to be here in the weather. The weather is incredible. We've driven quite a lot around, and we've been looking, as we said, we've been looking to buy land around here. So we drive to places we would never drive to. That's beautiful. We've been in Mostar quite a lot. It's such a cool city, and the events that are happening in Mostar now are just. There was a music festival. Is it a music festival or a food festival?
We went to the street food festival. We've been to that a couple of times, haven't
twice.
we? The diving, the Red Bull diving off of the bridge. And I think as well, there's a sense of kind of being present and not being too consumed with stuff. The UK can be very driven by consumerism, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one thing that a process we've been through, because we can't get Amazon very easily and we can't get online deliveries. At the UK, you get it the same day if you wanted to. It's not that instant gratification, but what that means is you actually change your mindset of, do I need that stuff? And if I do, then I'll go to the shops, and that will include a walk and a coffee and having a chat with somebody, and it's so much more of a social experience. So I'm not going to lie, I do miss sometimes some of the convenience, but that not having it actually enables you to engage in things that are much more fulfilling, really, from a human sense.
That's a really good point. It feels a little purer here. It seems, from the limited amount, because we do try and speak to people, but it seems like there's a lot of family. It's very family orientated. Feels like people have just, like Leanne said, it's not consumerism. They're not thinking, how am I going to get the latest BMW? How am I going to get the latest phone? They don't seem to care about that. What seems to be important is, am I with my friends? Can we go and have a coffee for 3 hours and sit and drink a coffee and talk? It seems, when I say a simpler life, I don't mean that in like a derogatory mean. I mean that as in like, it's just pure, and it's just like how life should be, I think.
Have you met any neighbors? What is your relationship with them?
We have Edin, our neighbour just across the way, is wonderful. He's been round for barbecues, and we've been round to his for drinks. We've had breakfast in Mostar, and he's helped us in so many ways, as has the family that we that we have from the house. So everyone's been really kind. It's a very summer place, isn't it, around Blagaju? There's lots of people that will come and have parties in the summer, and it's all been fine, but there was one party that was so loud, and usually we're fairly laid back about things, but we couldn't even have a conversation like this because the music was so loud. So after a couple of hours we were like, really sorry, like to the owner, really sorry, is there any chance? And within probably 20 minutes they'd pulled up and had unplugged the stereo, and then we felt really bad. But I think what people are trying to appreciate is that we're trying to live here, and we're trying to have a life here. So people have been really, really friendly. As I said, our dog sitter Anna, she comes around for lunch. We've been round to her house. Her mum made us a traditional soup. People just want to share their customs, and that's really, really nice. I don't think we've actually had a negative experience.
No, I don't think so. And I think we've also, the longer we're here, the more people realise that we're here. We're not just here for summer. And it's like living in Blagaju as British people, there's not many. There's a few people who are from the Netherlands, maybe a few people from Germany, Austria, but so we kind of stand out. So when people realise in the winter we're still here, I think their attitude slightly changes to us, that you're not a tourist, you're actually living here. And that's kind of cool. But like Leanne said, some of the people have just been so lovely to us, and that even if we don't, we can't communicate with them, they can't communicate with us, they'll still come over and sort of lots of touching and ensuring they know that they care and that kind of thing. There's a lady up the road who I don't think we've ever spoken to, but every time we go past, she gives a lovely smile and a lovely wave. We've never spoken to her and probably never will, but it's cool, very cool.
How do they react when you say that you're from England?
Usually, why are you here?
Why? That's the most common question. Yeah. Why did you come here? Because I think a lot of people, I'd imagine it'd be the same for someone in Germany. If someone from Germany comes and lives here, then a lot of younger people are saying, but we want to go that way. So you've done the opposite of what we want to go. But I think that I think it's when you're growing up, you don't really appreciate the country you're in. Whereas if you come from outside and you just, you know, you look out and you're like, this is just stunning. And you can drive 20 minutes, you can be in Mostar, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you can be in Stolac. Within 40 minutes, you can be Metkovic, is it? And in Croatia, you know, it's just such an incredible country with a great location, fantastic weather. It's from like British standards, incredibly cheap. You know, coffee now is £7 in, so what's that, about €9 or something, 8.5 euros in the UK. It's just an incredibly expensive place to be. And this is just love it.
If there was one thing that you could take from England to here and one thing that you could take from here to England, what would that be?
Everything being online, and not for buying stuff, but just services. Like, we can pay our bills online, we can do everything online, we can renew our driving license online, we can request a birth certificate online, we can, any kind of process can all be done online. So probably that's the one thing I'd bring.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going
Especially
to
given the amount of paperwork we need to do.
Yes, just paying your bills every month, and you know, there probably is a way to do it electronically through your bank, but we go onto our bank and we're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. So we just still go every month to the post and we still pay. That's kind of like, yeah, that. And I think, like you said.
And tea, but we do bring our own tea.
Yes,
so.
Tea, salt and vinegar crisps, and brown sauce. The cornerstones of England. And those are things we do miss. So when we go back at Christmas, we drive back at Christmas and we come back and the customs must think we're crazy because it's just full of crisps, like chips and brown sauce.
And tea bags.
And tea bags. In terms of taking it the other way, I think probably the main thing is I'd want to take the lifestyle and the family and the fact that people seem genuinely appreciative for what they have. And I want to take that back to the UK. And I feel sometimes in the UK, it's always what's next, what's next, what's next. Let's not enjoy what we have. I'll be happy when I get my new car. I'll be happy when I get my new phone. I've got an old laptop and I need a new one. Whereas here it seems a little bit more like people appreciate what they have rather than actually looking to the future of going, what can I get next?
Do you have any message for young people, especially, who are thinking about moving outside Bosnia and Herzegovina? I can tell you there are many of them. They just wait to finish their high school and move abroad, especially to Germany.
Yeah. Don't just look at the salary you're going to earn. Look at the taxes. Look at your cost of living. Look at what's going to happen when you're across there. You're going to be without friends. And I know that people in Europe are amazing at picking up languages, much better than us British are. But don't just look at how much you're going to earn. Look at just relative how that all's going to work out. Because if you're in Berlin and you might be earning, you know, €40,000, but your rent is €2,000 for a tiny apartment, then you're paying, you know, €100 a week for your Metro card or whatever. You know, it's not always as good as it first seems. And just look at it relative to your life. If you're looking to work on, you know, if you're looking for other opportunities, there are plenty of opportunities to be done online here. You've got the opportunity here to sell to America, the UK, Germany customers and charge those prices, but live in this beautiful country where it's a quarter of the cost of living than it would be in Germany or the UK or the States.
And I think as well, everyone's in a mess. Everyone's got corrupt politicians. Everyone hates the politics of their country, especially, you know, the last few years. That's happens everywhere. The only thing is different, I guess, is you maybe not engage in it in the same way because it's not your home country. It's not, you know, but it's every country struggles with that, and the UK and Germany no exception. So I think rather than run away from that, accept that it's not going to be different anywhere else. And I think as well we can't be hypocritical. We're here because we travel. So we can't say you should never leave your home country because we did. So I think, yeah, go and travel and experience the world while you're young. Of course, that's what you should do. But as well alongside that, and maybe while you're traveling, if you really, really want to, is realize that from an entrepreneurial perspective, in terms of creating something amazing, Bosnia is such a brilliant place to do it because it's already been done in the UK, it's already been done in Germany, it's already been done in Spain and Italy, and there is so much opportunity here for people who want to build something, whether it be a business in anything, whether it be tech, whether it be tourism, whether it be a service. There is so much opportunity here. And with that, you can do it in a part of the world that is beautiful and will give you a really great value for living. And you can build something that is going to serve you, for, the rest of your life financially. I think it's easy to see opportunity in places where there is abundance, but with abundance comes a lot of competition, and actually more limited opportunities. So I think, maybe go for 6 months, 12 months, do your research, see what's exciting, come back and build it in Bosnia, because the next 5 years, I'm really excited for Bosnia.
And you've also got the opportunity, the potential of joining the EU, which will change everything. If we look at Croatia, for example, the prices 10 years before they joined the EU, you wish that you'd invested back then for what they are now. Local people have got the opportunity. They've got even if you don't have money, we'll go and find money, go and say to someone in the UK, would you like to invest in one of the very few countries in Central Southern Europe that's not in the EU, where prices are a quarter of what they are in Croatia, where the people are amazing. When it joins, things are just gonna go up. Price is gonna go up, which is for good or bad. I understand, and that did affect us in Split and affected a lot of local people in Croatia when they turned to the euro, and that was a tough time. But still, it's also an opportunity to essentially buy and invest in this beautiful country when prices are relatively incredibly low.
And I think as in the current climate as well, I'm not sure if it maybe makes the media here, but there's a lot of backlash against British, Germans, tourism, over-tourism in places like the south of Spain, in parts of Italy and France, and there are protests in the street about foreigners being there. So foreigners with the money are going to want to find somewhere else. And it's silly to me that Bosnia isn't already that place. So it will be. Yeah. So again, it's having that foresight that yes, it might not be the perfect country for a 22-year-old right now, but if you can play a part in building that over the next 5-10 years, I think one, it's going to be an incredible thing for you to be able to do as a young person, but also then financially could be incredible.
We are shielded from the politics because just really, if you want to read it online, the articles are quite difficult to read as someone just learning Bosnian, because it's obviously words that, we know coffee, we know dog. These are complicated words. But then people have explained to us that the actual government or the administration is really complicated, made up of like 15 different somethings, and we know that there's Srpska, there's the Federation, we understand that. There's a risk no matter where you live of political problems. Perhaps there's more here, but for us, I don't know. I mean, it's not something I necessarily think about. It's not something I worry about. We kind of think about the world as like split into things you can control and things you can't control. And so if you can't control something, then why do you worry about it? And we can't control what's going to happen here. So I'm very much an optimist, so I always think that things are going to work out well.
Do you have any message for people who originate from here, or people who are foreigners who are just thinking about moving here?
I think if for anyone who's thinking of moving here, who's never been here, is just come and see it, see what you think. I think people will be really blown away by what Bosnia and Herzegovina has to offer. So come see it and then form an opinion, rather than form an opinion on, things you saw on the news 30 years ago. For anyone who is considering moving back, I don't know, I guess everyone's different and the circumstances are different for everybody, but I think particularly anyone who's entrepreneurial, anyone who's business-minded, there are opportunities here. So again, come see and explore and be curious. I think there's a lot of, we've always kind of thought, because we travel so much, we're very fluid in terms of where we are and where we live. You can always try something, and if you don't like it, you can go back. So I think there's an element of that as well, isn't there,
And I think the other thing is, which is not about necessarily moving to Bosnia, but moving anywhere, is that a lot of people we meet, because through our podcast, through just traveling, they think that by moving from their home country, they're going to have a fresh start. And very often that's because something, they're not happy in their home country. So they feel that, well, right, we're going to go and move here, fresh start, things are going to be better. Things are not going to be better, because if you're unhappy in your home country, you are going to be really unhappy in a foreign country with no friends, unlikely to be fluent in the language, much more difficult to get things done, much more challenges. I think a lot of people, they think they're going to move to a different country and everything's going to be different, but in actual fact the only thing that's going to be different is the view out of their window, and everything else is the same, if not worse. So if we know quite a few people who've moved to Spain, been there 8 months. 8 months seems to be the number, and then gone back. And that's a shame, because I think that if you gave it longer, the first year anywhere is always tough. When we were in Spain, the first year was so tough. Just anything like trying to get internet contract. You know, how do we get that? Well, we were, you know, and then you have to go and it's all the paperwork and stuff. But once you get past that first year, then everything just seems to get much better. So the key message I would say is that if you are coming here for a fresh start, or you're moving anywhere for a fresh start, just really think about that, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on yourself, your family, etc. if you do move. But if you are looking for an adventure, if you are looking to come back here, you know, what an incredible time to come back to see your home country 30 years after the issues that happened, and just see it thriving and beautiful and people happy, and you know, what an amazing time to come back to it.
Do you miss Manchester?
We miss our friends and family. There are parts of elements of Manchester we miss, because Manchester's an amazing city. But I think that's, you know, if you just miss things about places that you love, don't you, whether you've lived there or travelled there. But yeah, I think I don't miss the weather, that's for sure.
I think when we go back, we tend to go back maybe about 4 times a year for birthdays, that kind of thing. And very often we'll be standing there on our first night in Manchester, we'll be sitting in a bar, it's really busy, the place is cool, and we're like, why don't we live in Manchester? Why did we leave? And then the next day we're like, oh,
then we'll look at our bank account.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes, exactly. The bank account, the weather, and we're like, yeah, no, that's why we left.
The only thing I really do miss actually is music, like gigs, and because I didn't realise this until we came to the Balkans, that there isn't much kind of Balkan music that carries over to the UK and Western Europe. And likewise, there doesn't seem to be many, it'll be on the radio, but many artists that will come to the Balkans. So yeah, things like gigs and that I miss. And I'm always looking to see if anyone's coming to Bosnia or Croatia, but yeah, I might have to start campaigning for that.
You have to DM it, Taylor Swift, won't you?
I don't even want Taylor Swift, but yeah. Oasis, maybe.